You just mentioned women and money, and I think we should jump into this. Okay. So what do you see as the differences between the genders and then the relationship with money and the knowledge of money and the investing? Where do you kind of start off that discussion?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for women with money is, number one, most of us have not been taught about money, right, growing up. But for women, and you look at all the stereotypes and the Cinderellas and all of that, which is still prevalent today, we were actually taught to depend upon somebody else for our financial well-being. The Prince Charming, is he a good provider? So we're taught to depend upon a husband, a partner, family member, government to take care of us. And only now are we seeing all of these role models of women who are succeeding on their own, making their own money, but they're still in the back of the mind is like, yes, well, he's supposed to provide for me and I'm supposed to do this. So I think that's where it starts.
Yeah.
But then what happens for so many of us women, especially as we get older, due to divorce, due to death of a spouse, due to bad money management, due to ignorance, so many women as we get older find themselves in a financial crisis. I know a woman just the other day, her husband passed away suddenly. She had no idea what she had, where it was, and then Mr. and Mrs. Financial Helper come in to help her, and the next thing you know, she's broke because she has no idea. So one of the startling statistics is that, this is in the US, but the trend is similar in other major countries. In the US, of the elderly living in poverty, 3 out of 4 are women. But of those women living in poverty, 80% of them were not poor when their husband was alive. 80%.
Wow.
He dies, she has no idea, money's gone. So that's when I took it upon myself to create this mission to educate women, encourage women to start learning about money, to not become a statistic. We've got women that are in toxic, horrific relationships that are afraid to leave because they can't afford to. A lot of us, men and women, are working at jobs we hate because we're afraid of leaving the paycheck, the safety of the paycheck, because we're addicted to it. So that's the main reason I speak to women.
Yeah, there's so many, like the statistics that you dropped just there are like surprising. And you said like 40% of women over the age of 50 are single, and you don't think about that because of divorce and all these other things. And then they're trying to deal with what's going on with the money. 50% of marriages ending in divorce,
right?
And then there's no financial education, and then the elderly.
And she usually ends up with the children, so she's responsible for herself and her children. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the programming and the history with that. And then you were saying hard for women to charge money for things and to ask for money as well. So that's another weird gender.
It is. We were just doing a program here, and that is a big topic, to be able to ask for what you feel you're worth. Women tend to ask for less. And again, if you've got a service or product that needs to get out there, you got to charge for it. You got to make your business successful and sustainable.
Yeah, because if you don't, there's no business, and
That's
you're
right.
not sustainable either. Some positives with women in business as well, because also women tend to treat relationships and things differently.
Yes.
So what are some of the big positives there?
One of the big positives is a study that they've done recently with Fortune 500 companies in the US. They found that women that are on boards and in executive positions, those companies outperform companies without women. So the women bring an energy, they bring a diversity, they bring the relationship thing is huge. I have a friend of mine, her name is Nomi Prinz, and she wrote the book Collusion, all about the central bank. She was very much involved in the Lehman and Bear Stearns and all of these, Goldman Sachs. And she told a story of she was working in Wall Street at one of these investment banks, and they were selling this product. And she does her research, and so she's doing her research, and she goes, "You're saying that people can, at the worst, are going to lose 10%. She goes, "My numbers show the worst they could lose 25%, and we need to let them know that." And so the men said, "No, we don't." And she said, if we want to keep this relationship, because she was very relationship oriented, if we want to keep a good relationship with our clients, we need to tell them the truth. She was then let go. And the investment vehicle that product did crash, and the people didn't lose 10%, they didn't lose 20%, they lost 80%. And so there is the women, in my opinion, a lot of the women, want to keep that relationship with the client in very good terms. They're willing to tell the truth. They're willing to nurture that client and make sure that client does well by them, instead of, let's just sell them a product, and so what if they lose money? She actually went back to the company after they had lost this 80% and convinced them to return some of the money to the clients. They weren't going to do anything. So I think she got them to return like half of the money back to the clients. That's the difference between, at least in Wall Street, that's one example.
Yeah, no, I know Naomi, and she's really good.
Yeah.
And no, that's a great example. And so more relationship oriented, sometimes less ego.
I think less ego. We all have ego.
Right.
But I think men have a stronger ego, and I think that has to do with how their brain works and the neuroscience of it all. Women, especially my friends who are investors, they don't buy a building because, oh, look at my fancy building. They look at the building because look at my cash flow. Look at the bottom line. And I do think that women as investors, one of the pluses, they really do tend to nurture their tenants. They want to create a really nice environment. And it's very smart too, because you create a nice environment, then the tenants want their friends to move in too. So it makes good business sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just common sense, but I think we're just wired very differently.
Yeah, one of my mentors is a guy named Dan Payne. He's a high-performance coach. He has a castle in Scotland. He's called the $50 billion man. It's a very long story, but people who watch my show know that. But he says he has a system called QLA. He teaches people how to create generational wealth, and he says the women do better than the men. And I think it's because they understand the process and they work the process and they don't allow their ego to get in the way.
Yeah.
And so I can totally see that.
Yeah. There was another study that was done in, I think it was Arkansas. And it was a big sporting goods company, and families had worked at this manufacturing plant for years and years and years, and then the plant moved to Mexico, and only 10% of the people remained at this plant. So these men, their grandfathers worked there, their fathers worked there, they worked there, their kids were going to work there. So all these people were let go. Well, the women go, well, we have to take care of our family. So the men were trying to find a job similar to the job they had with the same benefits and the same pay. Well, these women are like, I'm going to do anything. I'll be a janitor, someone back to school to be school teachers and nurses because they were needed there. And over the years, these women rose up to management levels. They were making good salaries. They were doing really, really well, while the men were still looking for the job with the benefits and the pay. So it actually has been shown through the brain that women adapt to change much better than men. And it's not right or wrong. It's just a fact that they do adapt to change differently, and they do what they need to do, especially if there's kids involved and they need to provide for their family. They'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating how that works? And I can totally see that just on that side.
Oh, there it is.
And also in America, we're seeing, like, maybe even globally, we're seeing a greater percentage of women graduating college now than men. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of stats going kind of the other way when it comes to that kind of thing.
And the number one sector in the world of business is women-owned businesses.
Okay.
But there's one problem with that. And the one problem is, of those women-owned businesses, 68% only make $25,000 or less a year. And of those women-owned businesses, 90% have one employee, her. So I challenge women, if they're going to get into business, really look at how big this business can be. If you're just doing it as a hobby, that's fine. If that's all you want to do it as a hobby or to bring some extra money in, fine. But I feel we really need more female role models out there, especially in the entrepreneurial world. And if you've got a great product, why stay small? Staying small doesn't serve anybody. Why not? If it's a great product that is going to serve people, then get it out there.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me if there's, if my wife is watching, my stepdaughter, my mom, or anyone out there who wants to share this with some of the women in their life, what is that? What are some of the steps that they should be taking to learn more about these things in finance?
Well, to learn about money, I would say number one, learn the language of money. understand the language, because there's a lot of jargon that is out there. People throw around all this jargon, especially people in the industry, because they want to make themselves look smart and have you think that you don't know anything, and so you need them. Okay, I'm going to give you five terms you got to know, and you'll know this from Rich Dad Poor Dad: income, expense, asset, liability, cash flow. If you learn those 5 terms, that's a great starting place. And then it's just a matter of just finding out what you're interested in. So as you know, in the world of investing, there's 4 asset classes. There's business, there's real estate, there's paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and there's commodities, gold, silver, oil, gas, soybeans, coffee. And I found when talking with women and men, there seems to be one that resonates with each person. So for me, it was real estate. I love real estate. I understand it. I know it. I like driving by my properties. I like looking at the numbers. The numbers they always tell a story. I can get a pro forma on a property and know exactly how it's operating without ever seeing it, just by the numbers, because people get stuck with numbers. Numbers are very creative to me. And I'm not a math person. I'm not an accounting person, but numbers tell the story. So real estate was great for me. I have a friend she's an accountant. She loves paper assets. She does really well trading options. So that's her niche. So as you're looking at these different asset classes, pick one. Focus on one. You don't have to learn about all of them. Focus on one, learn a little bit, and then I say, put a little money down. Once you get that money in the game, your intelligence goes through the roof. So one thing I always recommend is go out and buy a 1-ounce silver coin. Not a collectible, just 1-ounce silver bullion coin. And it's amazing. You spend like $20 US. And because I've spent this money, all of a sudden I'm looking at articles. What's silver doing today? How's it affect gold? What's gold doing today? And I find for me, every time I put some money into any type of investment, my education goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to start. Buy one share of stock, 2 shares of stock. In real estate's a little more expensive, but there's other ways that you can do it, or just look at properties, start making phone calls to brokers and asking questions. And you get a little bit of information, you put a little money into it, and then the process starts self-generating.